Midwife Christine with the Birth Exchange podcast. And today we are defining doula, okay? We need to understand how valuable doulas are in the childbirthing journeys and experiences of women, all right? So I am here with 3 phenomenal doulas who are also my dear friends, and they hold special places in my heart. Mm-hmm. And we're going to just get into what is doula work and how can doulas help moms all over, either when they're having babies or after they're having babies, before they have babies. We're going to get into it. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
We're going to start with you, Toy, and you tell us who you are, what you do, and what inspired you to become a doula.
Well, I'm Toy, and I'm a postpartum doula. I'm now a birth doula, and I run Somebody's Baby.
And what is Somebody's Baby?
Somebody's Baby is a reimagination of life before and after birth for women, for families. I definitely came into being a mom thinking there was like A or B. But I've learned that there is a whole spectrum of options for taking this journey, for stepping onto the track and then moving, which is how I end up becoming a doula. I thought after I have my baby, A plus B is supposed to equal C, and it wasn't seeing.
It was not seeing.
It was not seeing. And with your help and the help of my doula, you guys kept an eye on me, which I didn't know was a thing. I thought that was my friends and family's job, and they were. But there were some things, because conversations don't happen often about birth, things can be forgotten over time. Mm-hmm. So these women who had helped raise me, or who I'm watching, they have babies. Sort of like if you don't use it, you lose it. And they're looking at me like, oh, I do kind of remember that, but I didn't tell you about it because I've forgotten. And so I actually just started learning as much as I could about just taking care of yourself postpartum, because just by changing what I was eating, I started feeling like I had slept 8 hours, and I still hadn't. I was still sleeping 2 hours at a time. By taking an Epsom salt bath, some of those aches and pains I was feeling, I don't really feel them anymore. And then I would tell my friends like, oh, this worked. And then before I knew it, the combination of me having a home birth and learning these things started spreading. People were coming to me asking me questions I didn't actually know the answer to. But I would either call you or I'd look it up and then tell them. And it seemed like I was just being drawn to this world because the questions didn't and haven't stopped coming my way. And I started asking, like, what makes you think I'm qualified to answer these questions? And eventually I stopped and just got qualified. Just went ahead, took certification courses, still learning. I realize I will always be learning. But I mean, women helping women is how it's always been. And I'm just happy to be a part of making sure that it remains a thing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Dawn. Dawn is my work wife, everybody. Okay, this is my work wife, my right-hand girl. Dawn, can you please just tell us who you are and give me your definition of what a doula is? Like, people need to know, what is the definition of a doula? What is a doula? What does a doula do? What does she not do? Help sisters out.
So a doula would be a person that is an emotional support person, someone that is informative. We help you understand information and how to advocate for yourselves. I think that is a lost art with our culture. We don't ask questions. We have been conditioned to just go and do. And I think that a doula has been a person that is helping our families and our cultures advocate for themselves through education and information. We are emotional support persons. We definitely make sure that the journey and the goal is met. That's our goal, no matter what that looks like. That can look different for everyone. I am Dawn with Unique Birth and Breastfeeding Services. I feel like every birth and birth journey is unique. Even with the same family, same moms, every journey is unique.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Aaliyah,
Yes.
hi.
Hi.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Tell me what inspired you to become a postpartum doula.
Postpartum, yeah. So I think postpartum was definitely a shift that I made after becoming a mom myself. And birth work for me came as a whole, came a few years before I became a mom. But the postpartum shift for me was much more centered around my desire to, I wanted to hold space longer than just a 24 or 48 hour birthing process. Not to say that that's not important.
Sure.
But I found myself wanting and needing to hold space for women. And I don't know if this is just a spirit-led thing, but most of my clients have been high risk or have had some sort of I don't want to say intervention, but yeah, we'll use intervention during delivery, whether it's by their own accord or, emergencies as they happen. And so I found that postpartum kind of gets, it's like the other side of the coin that gets forgotten, or, something that gets kind of tossed in the wash and, what happened to it, And I didn't want that for our women. I don't want that for our women. So that's really what kind of drove me into making more intentional space for postpartum, and really like shouting about it and advocating for it, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of times in not just our community, but just it's a problem that I see across cultures is there's so much excitement for the baby and the delivery, and moms are just kind of left out there to dry. And like as becoming a mom, I really needed that support. I really needed that village, and it wasn't just something that I needed for 2 days after the delivery. I needed that well into like my kids about now like yesterday. Yeah, so yeah, that really was my my driving force. Is I didn't want anyone to feel like they were forgotten or that they were I've had the baby, now what? And like Dawn was saying, it's education, it's information sharing. We're in an age of, you can find anything you want on Dr. Google.
Right.
But when you have that relationship with someone and you're literally in the trenches with them from however until well after the baby gets here, I feel like I form, I consider my clients to be family. And I say that from the beginning. Like, if I'm consulting, if you are just looking to, have somebody do this for you, do that for you, I say I might not be a good pick for you, because I treat my clients like family. I treat your husband like family, your children. So like I really put the family back in the postpartum experience, because that's why we're here. We're building families and we're building villages. We need the support while doing that. So I really create mother-centered and then family-centered experiences for my postpartum clients.
I think it's so important to normalize postpartum doula work and services, because I think the emphasis is, oh, I'm pregnant, I need a doula for labor.
Yeah.
When the simplest task can be the most difficult when baby arrives.
Oh, yeah.
And don't let you have a C-section.
Finding food.
Yeah.
Eating. What am I going to eat? When can I get up and take a shower? Like, the ability to do all of that is so hard. And I don't think that a lot of mothers consider life after baby arrives, like immediately.
And it hits them like a ton of bricks.
It's always
ton of
after.
bricks. It's breastfeeding and it's the postpartum phase of recovery, right?
Yes.
And I always we talk about to our families about how, lactation hits you right away. The baby's out, now you're in a phase of, having to feed this thing.
Yeah, right.
And then when baby gets here, now you have to carve out time for yourself to eat a meal. Like not just snacking, but an actual nourishing meal.
Yeah. And you need a minute to change those pads. Who's holding the baby?
A minute to breathe.
Where'd the baby go?
A minute to breathe.
Yeah.
So how can we normalize postpartum support? How can we normalize that? How do we get moms to understand that the postpartum phase of your childbirth journey is probably just as critical as the labor and the birth.
I think it's about not romanticizing or falling into the fantasy of birth. Like, I think there can be, it can be almost deceiving on social media even.
Very true.
That birth is just this match. And don't get me wrong, it is. It is a magical
it ain't.
experience. But it ain't, and it's very real. And
It ain't.
I mean, we'll talk about our own experiences,
Right.
but when we fantasize and I guess create like a false reality in
Yeah.
or a false construct of what it is to become a mother, like you're literally on life and death, like on that
Brink.
verge,
Mhm.
and that's a very real experience. So I think part of normalizing postpartum is realizing this is what it is. Like I'm very, very maybe blunt's not the right word, but I'm very
No, it's a good word.
Yeah, I'm very straight up with my clients. Like, let's talk about your postpartum plan, and they're like, yeah, let's write it down. We're not gonna talk about it. We're gonna literally go through it line by line, and we're gonna get this together. Do you have a printer? No, great, I do. So let's go ahead and type this up. Like, I literally will put it in front of my clients to make it real to them, make it real to their partners. Like, this is something you can't just fall into. We have to prepare for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is so important.
I think if we talk about postpartum, we need to also include our families, right?
Yeah.
Because if they're going to be the support team, then they need to understand what support looks like,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And if they're not,
And if they're not, they need to understand what that looks like as well.
Yeah.
Right? We're asking for 6 weeks. Please respect that. Right?
Yeah.
But if we're not, we need a food train. We need things that are going to help us be successful in this recovery period.
and when you talk about family support, family looks very different now because we're all from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
All of our families we take care of at Birth by Grace are all from somewhere else. Some other state is where the support system is, you know. And so we just try to help them understand, like, what does postpartum look like for you? Because you're home base. You're not in your home base where you would consider people to be, you know, able to be helpful to you right away, or and it's just it's hard.
Those are the families that I've seen benefit most from thinking about a postpartum doula. Because part of what I've done for moms is help them mobilize who they have.
Right.
Like, let people know, I see you as part of my community. You are who I'm thinking of when I think who will be helping me when this baby comes. So there's just one owning that I'm thinking about you. And now I'm letting you know. And then you get to respond and say, I didn't know that. I can't show up for you like that right now. Or, okay, let me know. What do you need?
Right.
And then from there, same, we make a whole email. Here's what I'm like when I'm stressed out. I like a warm bath. I like tea. I like candles. Please don't come in my house and do my dishes. You are welcome to do my laundry, take my kids for a walk, feed my dog. If I've had a really hard day, sit at the foot of my bed, but don't speak. No, you cannot hold my baby right now. Yes, you can come take my baby so I can take a nap. You know, make sure my husband ate something. Ask him if he has something to drink. Yeah, because once baby comes, that's not the time to ask somebody, what can I do for you?
Right.
She's not in a position to delegate jobs, and she shouldn't be asked to do that. Granted, most villages don't know how to be a village other than meal trains and coming by too much and wanting to talk too long and staying too long.
And that's where defining support looks like.
Oh,
comes in, right?
Oh,
because,
yeah.
You know, and families just, they really think that, okay, I'm going to come by and help you. And that help looks like how they think they're helping, but then that's not really helpful.
Right.
Right? Oh, let me come over there and hold that baby. You know, like, nah, I got to breastfeed this baby.
Yeah, because we don't
There's
really
the
have
other
a
baby,
culture.
though. You can go and take that baby somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my fur baby needs some attention.
Yeah.
You know?
No, really.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there is just, I think communicating is where people are falling short. And then people not understanding that they absolutely deserve support.
That
Oh.
part.
Right?
That
Oh.
part.
Because when you have someone running it down, like you ran it down, honey, last baby. You were like,
Look,
I said, oh.
Look, I ain't trying to end up in the hospital again. I've been in the hospital twice after babies because I thought it would be too much to ask somebody to come help me, especially after having one baby. I thought the expectation was she's got this.
Right.
If you ask me for help, maybe that's saying something about the kind of mom I am or the kind of woman I am, that I've done this before and I'm now saying I need somebody to help me. So I tried going myself, and baby girl was in the hospital 2 times away from the babies that I'm breaking my neck for. Had a whole doctor be like, girl, you won't be here for these babies if you keep doing this. So that this last one, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to be here. So, hi guys, I love you.
Right.
You say you love me, so let's do this. I need you.
Yeah.
Show up for me. Please. Yes, bring me meals. Absolutely. But I need to see you. Come by and talk to me. That's the kind of woman I am. Please come take my kids outside. I don't want them to feel neglected. You know, don't come cook for me. Yeah, ask me if I've taken a bath. Make sure I have enough pads by the toilet, please. And what was cool was on the back end, once I emerged from my bedroom, my friends were like, that was so helpful. I
To
could
know
come
how
over.
they could help you.
Yeah, they're like, I knew exactly what to do. I'd be like, it's Tuesday. I can go over to Toys House and run it down. I
And
was
that's
like,
restructuring support,
Yeah.
right? Because culturally, that's not a thing, right? Like, you know, you might have your mom or your cousins or your aunties and
Yeah.
you know, but as far as, you know, when you're in another space,
Yeah.
you have to restructure and redefine what support
Yes.
looks like
Mhm.
and be very intentional about
Yeah.
asking.
yeah.
Can we talk about, I think there might be like a palpable fear of supporting, not knowing someone's boundaries or not knowing how to show up for them. Like,
Oh, for sure.
I think that definitely exists, and especially in our community, like,
Yeah.
oh, she probably doesn't want me bothering her, so let me just,
True.
I'll check in on her next week, and then
Yeah.
you forget next week, and
Yeah.
meanwhile, she really
Suffering.
needs somebody. Yeah.
Mhm.
So can we talk about that?
Absolutely.
I feel like there's just this association with postpartum and then depression
Yo, they don't mean the same
instead
thing.
of
Yeah.
postpartum support,
Right.
right?
Like the phase of postpartum, which is
Correct.
after having your baby,
Right.
not necessarily being
It doesn't mean that I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Let's be proactive. Let's not become depressed.
Yeah.
Let's be proactive and deal with it before it becomes an issue where I am depressed.
Yes.
And
yes.
if these things are handled and worked out and I think planned ahead of time, then we don't have to end up in a depressed state, right?
Yep.
Because I think families just automatically associate anything beyond the baby, oh, well, they're depressed,
Or we'll
right?
get to it when we
Oh,
get
yes.
to it,
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
but you got to plan for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think that there's
Yeah, that's-
only an
yeah.
urgency around depression, right?
Exactly.
I think that's
Yeah.
a basic,
Not
something
necessarily
everyone
care.
needs to know. Like
Yeah.
postpartum does not mean
We're
someone is
depressed.
depressed.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's not
The
synonymous.
postpartum phase is
Right.
the time that after you have a baby and beyond, not necessarily postpartum depression.
Yeah.
Well, you know
Correct.
what's funny? Well, not funny, but my mom had always referred to postpartum depression as postpartum.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I was pregnant where I actually used that term at the OB's office. And she was like, stop right there.
Yeah.
Postpartum is or depression.
Mhm.
And she was like, let's not use that, interchangeably. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, but then I started to realize, have I been preparing myself for a negative experience and not even like realizing that my whole life I've been hearing postpartum and automatically associating it with either having trouble breastfeeding or just the negative aspects of that experience. And then it wasn't until, in hindsight, I realized, did my mother actually have the support? Like, yeah, she had a large family, but did she have the support that she needed? Did she have quality lactation consulting? Did she have the full package for postpartum support that would have allowed her to maybe frame how she taught me about that experience inadvertently or subconsciously rather? Like,
Yeah.
if she would have had that, and that's kind of the driving force behind my own care for moms. I see it in my mother as a mother now, like maybe if she would have had this, something else could have, came out of that. So
That's so
I take
good.
that, I take it very seriously. It is, you're literally healing generations
Yeah.
of women with postpartum care.
Literally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ooh, that's powerful.
That is powerful.
Yeah. Got yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shook me up a little
Yes.
bit.
So let's talk about the different types of doulas.
Yeah.
Okay, can we get into that? Because there are a few. And so the people need to know, our audience needs to know what's available in a doula. Who wants to take that?
Well, let me see. I'm in so much training right now. I was just looking at a list of like doulas you can hire. I think there's antepartum, which is like high risk, right? They mostly deal with high risk mamas. And then there's full spectrum, which is the way it was explained to me. I hope to one day be one. You are prepared for any birth outcome, whether it be a live birth, a stillbirth. And any birth outcome, that doula is prepared to be supportive in that. Then there's full circle, which is like birth and postpartum. Birth, doula, postpartum doula. Am I missing any?
Death doula.
Yeah.
Bereavement.
Yeah. Those are all the ones I can think of.
So I am a birth doula. I only support prenatal and birth. Once you deliver, I no longer care for you beyond the 6-week time frame. That's kind of where a postpartum doula would pick up.
Sort of, because I be hitting you up.
You do. But postpartum doulas, they pick
well-
up pretty much right away.
They can,
They
but they should
can.
have been there long time ago. It works
For
like
planning, for
really
sure.
well for planning, for getting to know you. Like a postpartum doula could wind up in your home. You know, some will be there to do some light housekeeping. They might give you a protective style, help you with your kids, you know, help you around the house. Some of them, like you said, some people, you know, have their feelings about people being in their home, so they might just provide you with some education. You know, I provide teas and like baskets to help you heal. And but getting to know someone beforehand, it just helps with like that comfort level and being able to work well together, so that when baby comes, the minute baby is here, you are postpartum.
Yeah.
So she should be in place, whoever she is. And hopefully, she was there to know your plan, to help you get one together. Or if you don't have one, you can start immediately kind of feeling your way through that if that has to be the route you go.
So do you think it's a better investment for those out there who are thinking about having a doula, do you think it's a better investment to plan for a full spectrum or to do a birth and a postpartum?
You know, ideally, you would have both.
Yeah.
Ideally, if you don't have family around, or if your family situation isn't one where that would be good for you to have them like close by, you know, you're like the village you've chosen.
Right.
If that doesn't feel like enough support, then ideally both, in my opinion. But if you had to go with one over the other, I really just say keep your mind open. Start a GoFundMe if you have to.
And also identifying what you need.
Yeah.
Right? So just really reflecting on your own personal needs and then probably making that decision from there.
Yeah.
Because it might look like two different people, because you know, one person's strength might be here and the other's here.
Skill sets.
You know, and
Yep.
and let's just talk about
Interviewing.
how we're all family, we're all moms and wives and all the things.
Yeah.
So, you know, everyone kind of fits where they would need to fit.
Yep.
And I feel like that's probably the ultimate village, if you want to, if you will, you know, like outside of your close family, friends, etc. Like setting up who is helping you throughout the spaces, your midwife, your physician, your you know, your prenatal labor doula, your postpartum help coming in through, you know, after the baby gets there. Like that is the ultimate like ideal situation.
I think you touched on a critical point as well. I think a non-biased party sometimes is really important, because if we're talking about mom coming in doing postpartum care, you know, now we're being influenced about
Expectations
and
how you raise
how
the
we're
baby.
feeding, what we're feeding,
A lot of that.
when we're feeding, why we're feeding, you know, all the things that mom is conditioned to be. And we no longer are practicing those.
Now that's a good point.
Yeah. And you got to work out what kind of mom you are.
Correct.
And some of our moms aren't in a space yet to give us room to do that.
Now that's a word.
Yeah. I want to think about that.
So some viewers watching, I'm sure you mentioned GoFundMe. Let's talk
Oh.
about the investment required.
Okay, that's good.
If there's like a range, an average, or however y'all can share that.
So that's one of my areas of passion.
Start with like.
So how much does a doula cost? How much does a doula cost? What is the price range for a doula? How
think
can
it's
people pay
subjective.
for a doula?
Yeah, definitely subjective. think it's also influenced by like regional, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Capacity.
capacity,
What they
what they
offer.
offer, whether they're a part of a collective or not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can I do a shameless plug?
Yeah, please.
You
This is
know,
what
they-
this is for.
The Atlanta Doula Collective has kind of been like the premier, or like the forerunners of doing affordable community
Mhm.
doula care. And that's really the whole point. We didn't want it to be a luxury for moms who could afford it, you know, because that doesn't help any type of health disparity or any birth outcomes improve by making it exclusive to those who can pay top dollar.
So they offer full service doula
Birth.
support throughout pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
That's right. And so that's one option. You can go the collective route, but I think let's just say birth. I think like 900 to like the highest I've seen for birth has been like 1700. Just for the birth, for a doula, not for a midwife. But that's another cost that probably, if you want to factor in calculate your plan there, if you want a doula, a home birth midwife, what does that cost look like? I think a doula is probably on average between 9 and let's say 15.
I would
Probably a
say
good
2000.
average.
Yeah.
Two?
Yeah.
I
15 's
think,
generous.
yeah,
Mhm.
2000
it's
for sure.
2023, and I think that
For sure.
2000 is
Livable wage.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
As far as a birth
Yeah.
doula, we start well before the baby is due and
Yeah.
birth ensues.
Oh, yeah.
So
We're talking
there's
like a 7
lot
to 8
of
month commitment.
correct.
Mhm.
And then there's the on-call time period, which is a
Ooh,
month.
Someone explain on call
So
and what that means.
I would love to explain that.
Because that is missing. That piece of knowledge is missing. Like
It
people need to
Yes.
understand what on call means when they have a doula.
Yeah.
The cost of being a doula.
think that
Basically,
Cost
it
to the
means
doula
that
of being a doula.
And that
if-
gets overlooked.
if
Mhm.
Jasmine Sullivan was in town today and I was, scheduled to be
Is she your
there.
favorite singer? What's happening?
No, I'm just saying, any concert.
If you were going to see
Beyonce.
Beyonce,
if you were going, correct.
if she went to see
Renaissance in
Beyonce,
Atlanta,
you went
and
in
you-
labor
You
she's in
would,
the concert.
I would have to drive alone.
I would have to cry
first.
first.
I would have to drive alone.
Have a whole fit.
I'd have to have all of my equipment in my vehicle.
Currently,
I'd have to
That
be
you pay
able. I'd have to be able to change my clothing within a decent time frame to be at my client's availability within at least an hour.
Well, before all of that, your phone is ringing
Well,
at any time, at any given moment, at any hour of the day or night. That's on call.
that's on call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you have to stop what you're doing at any given moment
Mhm.
to provide the services and support that you were hired for.
Mhm.
Correct.
So that is what on call means.
Yeah. Put your kids somewhere real fast.
Real quick, the babysitter,
Yeah. Yeah. However many you have a client who needs you now.
I gotta go.
Somebody
real
get these
moment.
kids.
Please.
That is the other reason why I switched to postpartum care.
Yeah.
I found that we're here providing the village for these moms, but where's my village? Like my doula support village. Like I needed someone to watch my 1-year-old, and I have a mom that's in labor,
That's
but I
real.
also have a husband that works, and my family is not in this state. So it really heavily influenced my decision to, okay,
Right.
Aaliyah, pause. I need to get control because I hate not being able to show up in full capacity.
Yes.
I hate having, such high expectations of how I'm going to show up for you because that's what you hired me for.
Mhm.
And then if anything that I feel I could have prevented gets in the way, now I feel like I failed you and I've let you down. And I didn't like doing that by being on call for births because I never knew when 2:00 in the morning, and I also have a special needs toddler, so 2:00 in the morning wasn't always a feasible thing for me to just drop. I can't just drop it,
Mhm.
and so that was a big part of my decision to start doing postpartum care, like almost exclusively.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I did probably 4 births this year, and the rest of it was postpartum because we could set our appointment,
Mhm.
we could schedule it, and
Mhm.
it took a while for me to not have that almost like FOMO and being like,
Mm.
like I
There's a high.
But for me, it was also kind of draining. The being on call was a little bit too draining for me.
Okay, I'm gonna have a transparent moment.
Yeah, let's do it.
Being on call is draining.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not sort of, kinda. It is draining.
Yeah.
But I felt bad for saying that
Why?
because I was like, well, this is what I chose, and this is what you
But
know.
that's why I love birth work the way I do, because you can look, your birth work don't have to look like nobody
yours.
else's
Yeah,
birth work. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Mhm.
Everyone finds their what is it?
Niche. It's right
Their
there in the
niche. You know,
Niche.
everyone
Yeah.
finds their special spot and thrives in that.
Mhm.
You know, and that's why I just love that, the versatility of it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes it work.
Yeah.
Toy can do this.
Mhm.
Aaliyah can do that. Dawn does this though.
Mhm.
They can pick this up over here. You know what I mean? I think that's what is also a part of the village.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And your birthing, your collective. You know, you
Yeah.
all are picking up pieces for each other, and I think that
Yeah.
that's probably the best way to go about doula work for birth, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't do it all.
Because it's a lot.
I agree.
It's
Yeah.
a lot.
And I agree. I just want to piggyback off of that as well. I feel like as a doula, you have to become comfortable with yourself and your practice and the way that you do and support families,
Mhm.
right?
That's correct.
Because everybody's not going to be your family.
And everybody's not going.
You're
like
not
how
going to
you do
be
it.
everyone's doula,
Yeah.
That's correct.
right?
Mhm.
So within that, I think that you have to become okay and comfortable
Yeah.
with
Where you are.
Yeah. That's good.
That's what I would have told myself like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in each consult I have with, after you interview some more people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with
Then
that.
you can,
I'm big on that. I'm
happy to talk
like,
to you again, but
I'll help you
want
find your
people
doula.
to find the
Yes.
right fit,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
it's an important
Be
time of their
sure, for
lives, and they
sure.
don't want to feel no one wants to feel a way about anything negative or any
Yeah.
weirdness. You know what I mean?
And
Yeah.
you get the vibe when you're
Oh,
consulting.
absolutely.
You do.
So when people consult for doulas, that's a good segue into
Mhm.
choosing a doula.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're interviewing multiple doulas, at least 3, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At least 3. You're communicating your needs,
Yeah. Yeah.
Up
seeing if
front,
the
yeah.
the vibe check is right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are
Yeah.
the things that clients should be asking?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that we as doulas should be asking?
Now that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Not spun it on me.
I mean, I'm just asking because
But
I
that's
feel
true,
like a
because
lot
it's a
of
relationship.
It is.
It is. It's a two-way
and
street.
and compliance is a real big I feel thing for us as doulas. I mean, how can we be effective if your part is not upheld?
That's real. Yeah,
Accountability.
especially when you're very clear on how you show up, then it doesn't make sense to work with someone who would have a hard time with that. I had someone start kind of interviewing me a bit through like an online service, so we didn't know what each other looked like. We were just texting, and she was trying to go straight into like, okay, well, if I hired you, and I was like, what are you expecting from me? And she was like, I don't know. And it was like 2 days before I heard from her, because she wanted a doula, but didn't actually know what she was expecting. Like, if I had one, what do I want from her? Which is the best question for me. Once I get that answer, it's one of the first things I'm going to think about. Well, she said she wanted this. I don't do that. Or I'm not comfortable with that. That would be a huge inconvenience for me that I'm not able to work around, or whatever. Because we are like dating each other, if you will.
Right.
I need to choose you, and you need to choose me.
Yeah.
And
It's not
being
just one or
clear
the
about
other.
what you do offer, right? And what
Yeah.
doulas do and don't do, and all those things as
Yeah.
well, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
can someone explain that?
Yeah, I think there's an art to consulting, and
There you
I try not to get too far off that script that I have for myself. I give myself 30 minutes. Of course, I'll go over sometimes if there's questions or whatnot, but I value my time, and I use the first, and this is something I learned from, she's a doula, Sankofa Mama Sierra, in Texas, actually. So for the first, I don't want to give her intellectual property out, but it's a 30-minute consultation, and like I said, it's an art to it. And so by sticking to that, it helps me to not feel pressured when a family presents, well, could you do this?
Right.
I
You have to have your own standards.
you have to have you got to stand on what it is that you offer, because I find with especially with a lot of new doulas, just eager to get clients,
Yeah.
and they'll agree to doing things that are not in their contract
or their scope.
or their scope of practice. And I have personally learned, I had a pretty terrible experience with that, where just wanting to help and wanting to be there and support, and the things that I was providing for this client were not in my contract, and I did not get paid for them. And when I confronted her about it, she was like, well, that was your fault. And I was like, you're right.
You're right.
You're right. That
Word.
was my fault. So, we stopped services, but again, sticking to if a client goes off script a little bit, like, well, you think we could add this? And I'll say, well, my hourly rate is this.
Right.
I don't do a la carte services. Some doulas do. Here's a list of doulas. If you find, maybe that would be your next step moving forward, to consult with them
Yeah.
to get your full package. I never want clients to feel like they have to settle for anything. Like, if you really do need this and it's non-negotiable, say that.
Yeah.
Have you all had clients call you to deliver their babies?
Huh?
To
No.
catch their babies?
No.
It's a thing.
Mm-mm.
It's a thing.
I can understand
believe
it being a thing, because I think as much as I am now aware of what a doula does,
Mhm.
for the most part in conversation, I sense a lot of uncertainty about what a doula does and doesn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I've had someone ask me to be her doula for a free birth, and I said, well, those things don't really line up. I was like, so what would you expect me to do? And she's like, well, I think I would just need you there for support. And I was like, but that's not really a free birth. You don't want me to like physically touch you. You don't, and I'm not going to physically touch you, because if anything goes wrong, like, we're in this room
that
by
is
ourselves.
a hot topic.
So I
Wow.
will just open up with saying we are not medical professionals.
Correct. That's outside of my
No.
scope.
We are not medical
Sister?
professionals.
No, we don't catch babies.
Yeah.
A lot of people think postpartum doulas are nannies or maids.
Ooh, yes.
Not true. We might do some light housekeeping. Maybe. We don't all do it.
Mm-hmm.
We might entertain your older children. Some don't. That's a conversation that's based on what she offers. But hiring a postpartum doula is not hiring someone to come clean your home or to watch your children all day for however many weeks you'd like to hire them. No, ma'am.
I think there's a major misconception around birth doulas. I think that a lot of people confuse them with the midwife. I tend to always try to redirect my families to understand that I am just emotional and physical support for them. The midwife is the medical trained professional that will be delivering a baby. I do not deliver babies. I don't want to deliver a baby as a doula. I am just emotional, informational support.
So that would probably be a good segue into why would women need both a midwife and a doula? And I love answering that question because there are two different roles happening.
Mm-hmm.
Although they may mesh a little bit at some point, the focus is different. So if we're at home, the midwife is focused on the health of you and your baby, making sure we're still in this green light, if you will, for home birth. And just clinically making sure our boxes are checked versus doing that. And she does not do, I'm not going to say she does not do. She's not focused on her primary role is not to provide physical comfort measures, rubbing the back and squeezing hips and all of that, in addition to trying to make sure you and your baby are still good for this home birth. In the hospital, if you have a midwife at the hospital, she definitely is not one who is going to be offering any type of physical support because she is dotting in and out of the room, right? So you definitely need both people if you can have both people, both professionals, being a doula and a midwife, because those two roles are very different.
And I think that this is a good point to mention that in any credible doula training, you'll learn that doula support is meant to be continuous. That's what the evidence for birth outcomes is based on, the concept of having continuous support during labor. specifically during labor, where, you know, with a doctor or even nurse midwives, it's more of intermittent, dropping in, checking, okay, good,
Right.
I'm out.
Mhm.
You know, that's not a continuous model of care.
Mhm.
And even when it comes to how many prenatal appointments you have, if you tally up that time, for most OBs, I think it's like 4 hours for the course of your whole pregnancy, or something ridiculous. Like it's not even close to how much time a doula will spend with you and your family, preparing you for the delivery, preparing you and supporting you through that birth. So again, we're talking about paying your doula what your doula is worth and what she asks for. Your doula is going to spend probably 2 or 3 times more time with you than your OB will.
Absolutely.
And so,
plus all the phone calls and texts.
oh yeah, the and 2 o'clock in the morning, and
okay?
you
Is
have a
that
gas
okay?
pain, and you're like, "Am I having contractions?"
Yeah.
Like,
Correct.
and that was something else I wanted to say about common misconceptions that doulas
Mhm.
are obligated to give you their time all of the time, like, or that we don't have families and other
Sure.
responsibilities. Like,
I appreciate
I've
that.
lost clients because of that, because I've set boundaries from a time, and they have crossed that boundary, and there has been an issue or something like that, and they're like, "But you're my doula," and it's like, I am, but I'm also a mother, and I'm also a wife. You know, I'm also a person, you know? And so that was another misconception I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about. I think humanizing us in this support role is very, very important, because it's not always about the money.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Oh,
I will leave
God.
money on the table.
Not all money's good money.
Not all money is
Let's
good
be
money.
clear there.
Yeah, if it past the vibe.
And you want to have clients who are going to respect that up top. They know boundaries. You know, I'm going to email her versus texting her right now because this is not an emergency or an urgent situation. Like, you want that mutual, like, respect.
Yeah.
You know, so definitely setting boundaries up front. You
Yeah.
know, how can doulas support moms in the hospital under all the stress, right? Hospital birth is very stressful on doulas.
Yeah.
Because you all fight through a lot of different dynamics, right?
Now, y'all are home births. Are you primarily home birth doula?
The only birth I've supported has been in the hospital, but I've only given birth at home.
Okay, interesting.
I'm primarily home.
Okay, and then of course you're a home birth midwife
Yeah.
with hospital experience.
Huh.
I came out of the hospital initially. It's extremely hard. I think the one way that we can help families that do birth in the hospital, I think just through education and learning how to advocate for yourself. I know in one of the other episodes there was mention about we are conditioned to not ask questions. And so I think, or no, just
mothers,
humans,
got it. Okay.
as Black people,
Yeah.
we are conditioned to not ask questions.
we just do.
Yeah,
do.
and trust, like give our trust
blindly.
away. Yeah.
I mean, I think we're taught no news is good news, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that just coming away from that, trying to understand what it is we're discussing. Ask your OB, what does that mean? Please explain. Please, explain further. I don't understand. Can you rephrase it?
Yeah.
You deserve that.
Yeah.
You deserve an explanation if you're not, clear.
But if you don't say you're not clear, how will they know you're not clear?
Right.
I think mothers birthing in the hospital should have doulas.
100%.
I think it's
100%.
I think the dads need the doulas.
agreed.
Probably
That's
as
very true.
much or maybe even more than the moms sometimes.
I agree.
Because in
It's
most of
just
the
that environment is so
yeah, like
Any
very
environment, I
choppy.
think for a
Very
dad, I think any environment for a dad, I think that there's a big misconception around the fact that we as doulas remove people. We don't. We're a part of
we're not
the
replacing.
team,
Yes.
the overall. So that means dad, mom, whomever you've
Yeah.
decided your birth team to be, we are just another added layer to that.
Yeah.
We support the
different
family as a whole.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. We're like, I feel like, especially in a hospital setting, I see myself as a reminder. Like, I'm right here to go, Dad, you can tell them, thank you for that information. Will you all leave while I talk about this with my wife?
Yeah.
Or she said she didn't want that. She's in pain right now, so she can't say it, but she said no. I'm that reminder to go, you can say no. She said no. You can say that again. He didn't hear you. like a help. I'm not the advocate between you and the OB, you and the nurses, but I'm here to remind you, you can say no to that. You can say wait. You guys did talk about that. I know this is a big moment, but you did say yes, you wanted that when things were calmer and we got to talk about it. Let me remind you of that. Yeah, so that things can be okay. When things get stressful, you know, you can, all kinds of things will leave your mind.
Correct. And that's why it's important to have a birth plan.
Yes. Yes.
Ooh,
What
but
is the birth
plans
plan?
are so.
What is that? Tell us what a birth plan is,
I have a
Aaliyah.
biased opinion.
It's not a magic
I mean,
spell.
go shoot for it. Shoot. Because we know that birth is unpredictable.
Exactly, and that's something
yes.
that I start out. I don't even do the birth. I have its own session. The birth plan is a whole. I have a 2.5 hour block, and we sit down together and we type it up. We create a document and we save it together. Dad, what's your email? Dad, you're getting this too. Great. Is your grandmother? Is your mother on the birth team? Great. Mother's getting this as well. I would literally put everybody on that birth plan. I don't want nobody saying they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. So, birth plans, I think, to your point, Dawn, our birth is unpredictable. I think we should still plan for it, but with the understanding that
Changes happen.
change is inevitably going to happen. Very few instances do births happen how you just want them to. You know, babies come on their own terms, and I think that's very important for clients to not get too attached to birth outcomes, and I think that can actually be a prerequisite for like PMADs or
Postpartum pain. Yeah.
postpartum grief, postpartum anything like mood disorders that might be enhanced by a negative birth experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And so not getting too attached. Of course, we want everything to go well, but you know, preparation, education, empowering you to believe that what we are preparing for, we're gonna do it. Let's prepare, and if not, we're gonna pivot.
Right.
We have to.
And
you
there's
gotta
nothing
know how
wrong
to
with
pivot.
a pivot.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a pivot. You
Because the
have
main
to
thing
be
is
flexible.
baby.
Have to be
Healthy
flexible.
baby, healthy mama. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Not what music was playing, what smell was coming
Right.
out of the diffuser.
Yeah,
Those things are
essential
great
oils.
and lovely. Yeah, if we can have that going, let's do it. But if not, at the end of the day, is mama good? Is baby good? We did it.
And as a birth doula, I think that that's really where postpartum doulas really come in, because we as birth doulas always say, okay, mom and baby are healthy,
Yeah.
but mom and baby still need to process and go through what they need to mourn because it
Absolutely.
didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
You know?
That's become a huge part of my work.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting mom to tell the birth story
Yeah.
and getting her maybe to do it more than once.
You know why? Because we're telling her everything's good.
Mhm.
You have a healthy baby. You're healthy.
That's so
Everything's
dangerous.
fine.
It
So
can be
now we
dangerous.
have to compartmentalize it and move on instead of actually saying, I didn't like that part.
Yeah.
And being
Yeah.
able to not like that part.
Yeah. And not even if it was a story where it's like mostly challenges, you know,
Right.
and things that are hard to talk about. Even if it was amazing and like the birth of your dreams, like to share it and to tell it is an important part of postpartum healing. Like to
Correct.
actually go through it. What was this like for you? What do you remember? Who was a part of it? What did
Yes.
their part make you feel? You got to share your birth story if you're going to be on any sort of forward trajectory in postpartum.
Yeah.
But to that point, you have moms who have had excellent, wonderful, beautiful birth stories and feel guilty about that, so they don't want to share.
I think that it's an attack on like Black joy. Like we don't feel entitled to joy,
That
and
is
that's
so
something
true.
that's
Ah.
it's a programmed thing
Yes.
for especially for Black women, like not feeling entitled to our joy, and
Because we should have gone through
because
some
we should have
struggle.
suffered.
Yes.
It should have been hard for you.
Yes.
Because it was hard for your mother and it was hard for her mother.
That's deep.
And that's all that you've heard and prepared yourself for.
Or maybe
Ooh, I
you're
feel like
gloating.
crying. That is
That
powerful.
is
That
deep.
is very, and
That's
I think
very,
that that's where we as doulas really need to step in and be that barrier.
We're doing spirit work.
And we have to
Oh, for
say,
Yeah.
your mother's birth is not your birth.
It's not yours.
And we're going to be right here. We appreciate mama's birth,
Yeah.
but we're going to have our own.
Yeah.
Like when people say holding space,
Yes.
like what does that
It's
mean?
real.
It literally
It's real.
we hold space
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
There's
What that
room
looks
for
like.
you.
Yeah, there's room for you. Take it up.
Look, let me
Yes.
show
Take
you.
up that space.
Yes.
All of it.
Unapologetically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Say that because
Yeah.
I've had moms and families say, "How dare she?" But in that moment, that was what was necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the idea that my entrance into motherhood would look a lot like my mom's because we share genetics, and it was and has been so different, and that rocked my world like mentally. I didn't know where to categorize that. Like, how am I her daughter and this has been so different for me? I want to make different choices, and literally like birth was like 3 times as long as hers. I chose the breastfeed, she didn't. Like, why is this so different? And it's because we're different. I'm different from my mother, who I came from, and I'm different from everybody else. My story doesn't need to be like anyone else's in amazing ways and in hard ways. If I can't relate to every hard thing a mom has been through in the same way, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
And if all the good things aren't the same, they didn't go, A didn't go all the way to Z the same way. Like, it's okay for my story to be all mine. It doesn't mean it might feel a little lonely, but I'm not alone.
Yeah.
We're all still moms
Well, you
here.
just created the narrative for you. And I've been privileged to be a part of at least 2 of your babies, and they have been totally different.
Yeah.
The same mama, same
Yeah.
family, same
Yeah.
dynamic,
Yeah.
same birth team.
Yeah.
And they were totally different.
Talk about spirit work. It was my doula who helped me see, like, each time you give birth, it's almost like you're being born again. And like we were talking about, nobody stays the same their whole life. And for me, it's been very clear with each of my kids. Like, my first came to show me how strong I am. My second came to show me I deserve peace and I can have it. And my third came to show me, like, you can heal and it's time to do it. And like my doula helped me, like, kind of put those pieces together. I was so focused on, I don't want to have a scary birth. Don't want to have another scary birth, and I don't want to tear. And she was like, right. Can we get all of you ready for that? Like, you want a peaceful birth. Are you at peace? And I was like, I think I am. Well, let's talk about that. How are you?
Holding space.
Yes. And because she did become like family, because the birth room, wherever that is very intimate.
Yeah.
That road leading up to it is very intimate, and everything after. And so whoever's involved, they do become like family. Like, this is family right here. Like, for the rest of your life. Once you've seen where this baby came from, you in here. But in a really interesting way, once someone's seen you in that space, they really have gotten like a peek at your soul, and that spirit connection is, I don't even know if there are even words for that.
Yes,
There
things are
aren't.
ineffable.
They are. And as a doula, I have to say that is such an honor to be in such a vulnerable space with a person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Through
absolutely.
the good and the bad.
I mean, they've never been there before.
Yeah. Even if this is baby number 9.
Yeah,
Like,
correct.
you haven't had this baby
Yes.
this
Everybody
time.
Say that.
Everybody should have a doula. I don't care if it's your first baby or your 18th baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you definitely gonna need a baby. A
Yeah.
doula. The more babies you have, the more you need a doula.
Look, that
Okay.
right there.
Yeah.
So thank you for that conversation. That was good.
Felt
It's
good.
really good. We need to start reclaiming our joy in birth as Black
Yeah.
women
Yes.
and creating the village around us to help us do that and revel in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a good conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
How can we find you, Aaliyah?
My name is Aaliyah Bowler. I am owner of Yeye's Gift Doula Services. Yeye translates to mother, so it's Mother's Gift. And you can find on my website, www.yeyesgift.com, and that's YEYES. Yeah. And Facebook, same thing, Yeye's Gift. So that's how you can find me.
And you offer primarily postpartum doula services.
I do.
I know you
I
be
also
cooking
do
up meals,
placenta
honey.
encapsulation. Yes, I love cooking.
Yes.
That's a big part of my postpartum, I call it experience for my clients. I make sure you eat, girl. I make
Listen,
sure
you need to make
eat.
sure some midwives eat out here.
Yeah.
Can we get a
Let's
meal
have a
going on, a
party,
meal
right?
train?
Everybody
Some
needs a meal
midwives,
train.
we
Oh,
be
I
starving.
love
Everybody.
doing that. And, daddy eats, mama eats,
Good.
kids eat. Everybody eats when I'm taking care of you. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Dawn, how can people follow you?
You can find me on IG at Unique Birth and Breastfeeding Services. I can be reached via my website at ubbservices.com. I offer birth support services, mostly for home birth families.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Cool. Toy, how can people find you and what do you offer?
You can find me on Instagram at somebody's baby ATL, because you're a mother now, but you've always been somebody's baby. The website is somebodiesbaby.co, not com. Com was taken. I offer birth doula services, home birth hospital, wherever. Postpartum services in home, but I also make postpartum baskets, which is really fun, with homemade small batch products from these hands that support your body's natural healing processes.
Lovely.
And then I also made a workbook to work through a partner and mom to work through preparing for postpartum, getting your mind right, getting your house, your village, your mind, and your partner ready for life after birth. And then I love to gather moms together for postpartum pillow talks where we get the real on life after birth. And then I've started creating these really lovely dinners where we just remember that we are women who became mothers, but we take care of ourselves. We kind of digress about motherhood and just get a beat on where we are. We want to show up as amazing moms, and that's so good. But it's just a small part of who we are. So the dinners.
Wine welcome.
Wine is welcome. Same. I love feeding people, but with 3 children, I don't always have the capacity to make the meals for everybody. So at these dinners, I get to do that. And then for Mother's Days, as a postpartum doula, I don't offer showing up in your home for days on end to support you, but I do offer Mother's Days, which is 6 hours of me, you, and whoever else in your immediate family you need to be there. Everyone will get a shoulder neck massage because holding babies makes these muscles a little weak. I'll feed you, make sure you're hydrated, and you can have time for a nap, bath, both, whatever.
I think I'm going to
in
book
your
you.
home.
It's
been fun to offer, and most people tell me it feels like their mom came to visit for a little bit. I'm usually hired by women whose moms can't make it immediately after baby is born. So yeah, it's been a really nice way to show up in a way that works for me with what I legit have going on in life.
How beautiful. Yeah. There is no reason you can't have a doula. You got 3 amazing doulas here you can reach out to. Okay, so today in Defining Doula, the episode, we learned that doula support can look like whatever you need it to look like. You know, as long as you identify your own specific needs, there is a doula for that. Okay? Thank you for watching Birth Exchange Podcast with Midwife Christine, and we'll see you on the next episode.